Well, hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Discover New Music podcast from us at Pelt Music. Shortly, we'll be joined by ANIIMALIA, who we recently featured over on our Discover New Music playlist on Spotify with their single Puppeteer. But before then, the usual reminders from myself. If you would, please do follow Pelt on social media. We're on Facebook at Pelt and on Twitter and Instagram at Pelt Music. And again, if you would, please do hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, wherever you're watching or listening. Welcome to Kira from ANIIMALIA to the Discover New Music podcast. Absolutely delighted to have you on today. How are you doing?
I'm good, thank you. I'm really excited. Our EP is coming out very soon, so we've got a lot of energy at the moment. But yeah, doing well. How about you?
Yeah, no, the sun is. It looks like the sun's shining on your end.
I
It's
know, just
not
come
so
in.
much now. Yeah, it's got a bit grey actually where I am, but no, it's obviously been the Easter Bank holiday weekend, so all good. And yeah, like you say, exciting times for the band. EP coming out as we talk in 2 days' time.
Yeah.
Obviously, as people are listening to us, the EP is already going to be out there. So obviously, first message from me to the listeners is go and hunt it down, find it, and give it a listen. I'm sure there'll be a link in the bio from this to do so. But yeah, a lot for us to delve into. But on this podcast, we always start off with the same question. So it's the Discover New Music podcast. Hopefully, for some people to discover some new music would be nice. So for people unfamiliar with the band, we always just start off with a segment we call the origin story, which is a very grandiose way of me just asking you, how the band came together. What is the origin story for ANIIMALIA?
So I feel like there's usually quite a simple answer where all the members came in at once, but that's not what happened with us at all. So for years, our bassist and guitarist, Max and Kira, had been friends and they'd been playing instruments together. And a couple years ago, they found Ben. They were in a project where there were like five of them, but those three were the only three that properly kind of had the same intentions and clicked. So they kind of walked away and were like, right, we're a trio now. We have no singer. What do we do? And for a couple years, they were looking for a singer, and it got to the point where it's literally the wit's end of like, we can't keep playing the same instrumentals on repeat. This is destroying us. So luckily, I just happened to be looking for a band. I'm someone who I always love the idea of a band, but I just kind of didn't ever pursue it properly. And then join my band, the website came in handy, and that's where they found Ben, but it's also where they found me. I reached out to Kieran, and yeah, we did one sort of like little audition, and it just kind of all worked. Like we knew immediately that we just dive into everything from there. So that was about three and a half years ago now. So yeah, I've been together a
Yeah.
little while now.
Yeah, you absolutely have, and you've achieved some great things already, which we'll delve into. But I do love that origin story because it's a very modern take on,
I know,
in the
yeah.
old, yeah, exactly, olden days, like maybe a flyer up in a record store or an advert in a magazine. No, joinmyband.com, yeah. So, the modern world, the world we live in, it's amazing.
It was very handy, I will say. Like you find some typical cover bands and like hobbies on there, but sometimes you like hit a gold mine. There's the odd person who really, really wants to pursue it. So it's definitely a good site. If anyone out there needs a band.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, case in point, ANIIMALIA, you've obviously hit the target with the group of you that have come together. You've already had a previous EP out, but you've got an EP called Carousel coming out as we talk again, in 2 days' time. But listeners, go and hunt it down. To tease us into talking about the EP, I want to start off with Puppeteer because we always ask about whichever single we've featured over on our accompanying playlist, and it was Puppeteer for ANIIMALIA. So the single Puppeteer, what can you tell me about that song? How did it come together for you?
So when we're writing an EP, we always end up starting with at least one song to get the whole vibe of the EP. We don't always go in with a theme that we want to write to because it feels more authentic to us if we go in having written a song that already has everything behind it. And Puppeteer, it just naturally, the hook came very quickly, which is you're pulling on my strings and pushing on my buttons, which is literally just the embodiment of when you're pushed to your absolute limit with someone. I feel like everyone in life will at least once, but usually more than once, have someone who absolutely gets on their nerves, whether it's a tiny thing or whether they're literally dictating your entire life by it. And when Kieran threw in that riff, that's kind of what we started with. Immediately, I was like, this needs to be some thrashy, angry, like slightly sludgier paced song that really gets that message across. So from there, the EP kind of followed that sort of heightened emotions, anger, overconfidence sort of vibe. So Puppeteer probably shaped a lot of the EP, I'd say, which is why we made it the single.
Yeah, and a wise decision, I feel, because it
Yeah.
is a fantastic sort of intro to the EP. I've actually
Thank
just been
you.
reviewing the EP this morning,
Oh,
so
really?
so giving it a good listen before obviously talking to yourself, Kira. And yeah, fantastic EP, like
Oh,
four
thank you.
songs, very short and punchy, like literally sort of punch to the face. I call the EP, yeah, in a good way. So yeah, Puppeteer really sort of sets the tone for it. And yeah, I absolutely love it. And I love as well the video for Puppeteer. So
Yeah.
on this podcast, I often like make myself out such a geek because there's two sort of questions I always ask on this podcast where I probably geek out. One of them is the music videos. So obviously I grew up with music TV, so I used to watch music videos religiously before school, after school. It's not so much a thing these days.
No.
YouTube's out there, but it's I always feel that you build a bigger connection with a band when you've got that visual to go behind it. And
Yeah.
sometimes there's no video for me to talk about because obviously budgets get sort of trimmed and the videos get sort of taken
Mm.
off. But I was really chuffed, not just to see there was a video, but to watch it and go, wow, this is such an awesome video. So, how did you obviously come up with the concept for the video and put it into practice?
So I think we wanted to do something a little bit more themed. It ended up looking quite themed, but our last EP, which had songs like Silver Linings on, it was called Pressure Points. It was more an embodiment of the music we like to play, who we are. It was kind of a starting point for us. Whereas now we're trying to develop more into artists and we're trying to put a lot of thought into everything that comes with that, which is, the artwork, the music video, the stage performance. You can put imagery and vibes into anything that you do as a band. So we thought let's kind of pick something that embodies the meanings of the songs and the meaning of the EP and roll with it and see how much we can come up with. And by complete chance, Max, who seems to have all the contacts in the world but doesn't tell us until the last minute, he messaged a circus group completely off, like no reason for it, just was like, I wonder. And he messaged them and said, we need to film a video on this day. Do you happen to still be in the area? And they're like, we're packing up that day and we're leaving the next day. You can use our tent if you want to. And we were like, yes, of course, we'll never pass on that opportunity. So we literally landed a circus tent and we were like, this is absolutely perfect. Ben built the prop, which we call the Zoltar box, which had our spooky character in it. And yeah, it literally, we just wanted to do something that showed the control. Like there's this element in the song which is all about someone controlling you, and that's what we really wanted to delve into. And we think music videos and visuals are really important, so we definitely wanted to do at least one video for this EP. So we were just really lucky to get the location. That's the thing that really sold it for us.
Oh, exactly. And it really, the video sets apart from like, a lot of the videos I watch because of that location. So many times it's like, oh, well, let's find an empty warehouse and just play our songs in
Yeah.
front of it. And maybe if we're lucky, we'll put the sprinklers on and have a bit of rain coming down on us. But that such a great video. Listeners do need to go check it out. There'll be a link in the bio to it. And yeah, it just I say it does for me just tell a more of a story around the song and just get especially that video, like you say, it does pull on the themes of the song and like you can
Mm.
either watch it and go, yeah, it's just a really cool visual alert to the song, or a geek like me will look at it and go, ah, yes, I get the little Easter eggs in there, the little
Yeah.
subtleties. So yeah, no, fantastic, and I'm really glad you've obviously got that out there. And speaking of getting out there, obviously we've touched on it, the EP, 2 days from now, but again, listeners, it's out there already. Carousel, 4-track EP, I say, a real positive punch to the face of just some like quality hard rocking music, and yeah, really enjoyed listening to it myself this morning. Obviously, I'm guessing you really enjoyed like making it, and I'm guessing you're really excited to get it out there in the world.
Yeah, definitely. So obviously we get to like tease the songs a little bit live. We get to tease bits to family and friends, but there's nothing that properly compares to having it out there with people that may not have known you before those songs, or they may have heard a little bit of you and they're like, this is the song that sold me. So we always love the feedback and even constructive criticism, like any of it. We absolutely love to hear. We've been working on this EP for a long time. We actually split the recording up into two chunks. So we recorded two songs quite a while back, and then we recorded two more songs just to make sure we had everything perfect. So it's been a long time in the making for us, and we really put a bit of extra effort into this one with diving into synths and thinking about how things would reflect on stage, and again the slight theming of it. So it's really interesting to put it out there when it's something a little bit different for us. And obviously, we're still a young band who's developing. So we really want to see what people think of this one. And with it being 4 songs, we did 5 last time, but we think these 4 hopefully are more quality. So yeah, we'll just have to see what everyone thinks about it.
Yeah, I guess there's a nervousness as well to that, isn't there? Like the
Yeah.
flip side. Yeah.
Just a little bit. I think it's just because again, when you work on it for so long, when you have loads of money as a band or you're under a huge label or whatever, you will get to do it quicker. If something relevant comes out in pop culture and you want to reference it, you'll get in the studio, write the song, and release it as soon as possible. But we are working a lot more on building ourselves. Obviously, we have support from Marshall, but we're still quite a DIY band. So we are trying to put everything we can into the recording process and make the songs as good as they can be before they come out. So it is nerve-wracking having been so long since we recorded the first ones, and finally now it's going to come out and we're going to be playing the full sets live, and it's really exciting. But you always do wonder what people are going to say. So hopefully everyone likes it.
Yeah, well, I say I've listened to it this morning, and yeah, absolutely phenomenal EP that
Thank
listeners
you.
definitely need to check out. So yeah, job well done. And I picked up on there. You said obviously, yeah, you're still quite a DIY band. You know, you're under Marshall, and that is actually an interesting point because I've had a few Marshall bands on the podcast, and all of them have said the biggest positive for Marshall Records is the fact that they let you be yourself still. They let
Yes.
you continue, with the people you've worked with previously, in the manners you've worked with. They might give you that extra little sort of nudge, but you still get to be what you want to be. And I'm guessing you've found the same working with them.
Yeah, so I find with Marshall, it's a big name and a small team,
Mm.
which is brilliant because you want the kind of label coordinator, you have someone who helps with your PR, you have a few bits and pieces, but a lot of it is what can you guys come up with? What can you guys give us? And then we'll just give you the feedback on what you provide. There's no checklist of things that you need to follow. They might give advice, but at the end of the day, it's your choice to take it or not. And we personally aren't managed, so we have the record label behind us, but we still make so many of the decisions ourselves. So it is really exciting being able to go forward with music that you truly believe in that hasn't been coerced in some way. And they are really supportive on that front. So it has really been an amazing experience. We never had a label before them. So going in straight away to a really positive label is exactly what we wanted, and we really couldn't have asked for a better first experience. So yeah, definitely agree with what everyone else has said, that it definitely helps you be yourself. I'd say there's not as much pressure on you having to be something that you're not, which isn't what we do at all. We try and be very authentic to ourselves. So
Yeah, no, it's so important to have a supportive label behind you. And there's a few different labels that we've had multiple guests of that have spoken really positively. Marshall definitely one of them. So yeah, fantastic to hear. And I want to touch on as well the recording of this EP and the previous EP, I believe as well. You worked with Romesh Don
yeah.
Goda, who obviously, for me, again, this isn't even the second bit of me sounding like a geek, but I'm going to sound like a geek again right now. For me, I review a lot of obviously albums, a lot of EPs, a lot of singles, and you'll start to pick up on names of producers that, oh
Yeah.
man, I've seen this name like so many times now, and obviously Romesh is one of them. Like if you look at the list of who he's worked with and the songs that he's helped produce, obviously the guy is a bit of a genius, really, isn't he? So I
Yeah.
mean, what was your experience working with Romesh?
So the first time around, we got to meet him in person, which is we're so fortunate to even work with him, let alone meet him. And you can really tell that he knows what he's doing. Like he's very fast paced. He knows exactly what to do in a situation, and he'll also kind of give us tips and things to pick up on and take with us, which has been so helpful. Like we've definitely taken everything we learned the first time around to the second time around. And this time around, he was mastering for us, still reached out, and we still had that bit of communication so we could make sure that it was exactly what we were thinking and taking his advice on board. But you can definitely tell that he's worked with some amazing artists and that he really has his head screwed on and he knows exactly what he's doing. And we're just so grateful to have been involved in that experience and be able to know going forward what we can do for our own recordings. We do a lot of our demos from scratch and we try and do everything as much as possible before we come into the studio. So knowing what we're doing when we go into the studio, it's so nice to be able to do that behind the scenes with advice from someone who's so successful. So we could not be more fortunate for that. We've had quite a bit of luck to the start of our career, and being able to work with him was honestly pretty up there with some of our best experiences. So definitely give him thanks for this EP in the last.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And you called it luck, and there's always going to be an element of luck, but I think hard work, certainly
Oh
from what I can
yeah.
see, is gone into that massively as well. Because obviously you managed to win the deal in 2022, and we had Rituals on this podcast last year, who won
Oh
it last year, and obviously the work that goes into it's not just like let's just enter our name in this hat and like we're lucky enough to get pulled out. Obviously the work that goes into getting there, and obviously the benefits of that is that you got to play Download Festival.
yes.
So what are your memories, obviously, of that day?
Honestly, that is still one of the craziest experiences. Huge imposter syndrome. Like it was so incredible. We as a band, I think at that point probably been going like a year or two. So it really wasn't very long for us to be thrown into an experience like that. Of course, we were nervous, but the excitement and the just thanks that people had enough faith in us to help us get to that point was incredible. And the day was hilarious because we were all so hyper and full of energy and so excited to get ready and go on. You get to run onto the stage rather than just stepping up a few steps and then you're there. Like you get to run onto the stage and see like all these people who obviously love all of the other bands that are there. So it's this huge sense of community and being in the right place because these people are just so excited to see you because you're in the same realm as all these other bands they love. So that was incredible. Afterwards, just giddy and going around the rest of the festival and watching the other bands and be like, it's incredible that we were here to perform. But even just being here to watch, it just reminds us like how much we love what we do. So yeah, we enjoyed the whole experience so much. It was a lot of fun to have like friends and each other around us who and we just enjoyed it. There was no stress attached to it. Obviously, those nerves are there. But when you're on the stage, especially a stage like that, it just all goes. You're not even thinking about that at all. So it's still one of the most mind-blowing experiences that we've ever had. And again, we're so fortunate. And like you said, it is luck, but at the same time, we like to think that we put in so much effort and work to get there that we were just very proud of ourselves after that. I'd say we're very excited by it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I mean, I've already picked up in our conversation, when we talked about Romesh, you said obviously you were looking to learn from him. And, that's such a key feature for new bands that I
Mm.
always get the sense that there's a lot of bands out there that don't have that mindset. They have the mindset of, oh, yeah, no, I've had a minor level of success. Like, we know what we're doing. Like, let's forget everyone else. We're like better than everyone else. The bands that succeed are the ones that are looking at and picking up on production techniques or sort of stage presence from bands, etc., etc. Obviously, I'm guessing when you're at downloads and watching other bands, you're thinking to yourself, oh yeah, I can pick up on this little nuance, I can pick up on that. And obviously, it is that really, it's something that is at your forefront, looking to learn from the experienced people around you.
Yeah, 100%. I think naturally that's ingrained within
Mm.
us as a band anyway. But also the industry is so unpredictable these days. Unless you have a full team around you who are willing to do that work for you, then you have to keep your eyes out and you have to be learning things because like at the flick of a switch, it could all change and then you're stuck in the middle of it not knowing where to go next. So we will literally take on any advice we can. It could even be from, friends and family. It's not just industry professionals, it's anyone who points out relevant points to us, we're going to take on and involve in our career. And we like to do as much of it as we can ourselves. Like we each have our passions within the band, which really help us like draw forward. So for example, Max is very into his DJing and his tech and synths. So this EP, we really tried to use more of that. And again, you take your influences from around you, but it's the passion that properly fuels you on with it. And that helped us so much. We have Ben who's into his art, and me and Kieran are more on the slightly more social and admin and social media side. So we do really just try, and other bands as well, other small bands, other developing bands, some of them really know what they're doing, and you're just taking that inspiration from wherever you can and building those connections. So we'll never stop wanting to learn. We never want to take a full step back and not do any of it because that defeats the point of what we started the band for. We want to be able to express ourselves and be fully involved in every process as much as we can. So we've really enjoyed the opportunities we've got so far to do that.
Yeah, no, absolutely love the attitude. It's fantastic attitude for a band to have, and I'm sure it's going to pay dividends as you progress. And I love as well you said obviously about building connections, because it brings me on to the next sort of topic of conversation, which is the live side of things. And
Hmm.
obviously, building a connection is so important, getting out there playing shows, and you've got shows coming up in Bristol, London, Cardiff, Plymouth that I could note down. So obviously with the new EP out, I'm guessing there is a plan on your part to just get out and play as many shows as possible.
Yes, so we can't always talk about everything that we've
No.
got in the works because we haven't got certain things out there yet. But like you said, we've got two shows coming up that we're serving as a proper EP release, kind of redoing our set a little bit, making it properly up to speed, and hopefully will be pretty impactful in relation to the EP. Um, Other live shows, honestly, we just love performing live. It's really the root of what the band is. Like, pretty soon after becoming a band, we started doing shows, and it's really where we all feel most at home. And I think it's what we as musicians and a lot of other musicians do it for, is the
Yeah.
recording of the music, the social media, all the extra things that you have to do. The live side of it really makes it worthwhile, and we've had some really incredible shows where you can tell that people are getting into it, and the way people talk to you afterwards is so heartening. Like, we love, absolutely love connecting with people who say, oh, I found you from this, I've seen you before, I love you guys, or I've not seen you before, I've just walked into the room and I happen to love what you're playing. And that is always what really pushes us forward. So yeah, we have got a couple shows coming up. We're really excited about all of them because they're all like their own thing. They're all quite different. And hopefully for the rest of this year, we will be filling up our diary quite a lot. And again, just getting back to our roots, and that's what we do best. So we just love performing live.
Yeah, you can't beat the live side of the industry. It's
No.
obviously, as you say, I think that's why fans as well, it's great to get a new album and listen to it and everything, but going and seeing it live, completely different experience is what it's all about for me. And I'm glad you obviously touched on your diary's going to be filling up, because I always give out the social handles and say, obviously, listeners, that's the best place in 2024 to stay up to date with bands. So you've made my life pretty easy. I've got two to give out. Sometimes I've got multiple, like, 3 or 4 to give out for different
Yeah.
platforms with all different underscores. You have got an underscore. I do love an underscore. So Instagram and Twitter is Animalia underscore UK.
Yeah.
And Facebook is Animalia the band. So they should pop up on the YouTube, and there'll be a link in the bio. So obviously, listeners, encourage you, go and give the band a follow. That's where you're going to stay up to date with all these shows as they get announced. And obviously, if you can, pop along to one of them and see the band live, because these songs sort of, for me, are designed to be heard live. They definitely need
Yes.
to be experienced in that way. And that leads us on to where I make a bigger geek of myself even more. Really, the last sort of big segment of the podcast is something we call set list science. So I say the live music side of it is so important to me, and you can get it so right and you can get it so wrong as a band. And obviously a set list for me is so important. I'm glad you did touch already on you're going to be mixing yours up and looking at it. So obviously I can tell already that you've at least given it some thought, which is nice.
Mm.
So the main question of this portion is, how much importance do you place into the structure of your set lists, and have you got any rules that you tend to follow?
One of our big rules at the moment, which isn't a consistent one, is just to change it up a bit. After a while of playing a couple shows in a row and the set list is the same, you kind of realize that you're falling into a habit, and we want to change it up and figure out what songs open the show well and what songs people react to, and what is our finale. Our last few songs in the set we have pretty like tight. We know what we're doing with those, but we do like to change it up. And again, we've got some old songs, we've got some new songs, we've got some unreleased songs. You really want to work out where you're going to put things in the set. A lot of it does come down to music, the keys of the songs, the tempos of the songs, how they flow into each other. But some of it, again, is literally just changing it up, seeing what people react to, and then readjusting the order. And we've done that quite a few times now. We're really excited to go into the next gigs with a kind of more thought out set, and hopefully one that optimizes the release of the EP. But in terms of rules, yeah, apart from the music ones, it's just how people react. And if people liked a certain song being the introduction of the set, then why would we want to overly change that? If it's working and the people are the ones that give you the answer, the people have said it works, then we're going to go with that, and we're going to stick with that until something tells us otherwise. So yeah, but set list is definitely important to us. Again, we're getting to the point where we're getting enough songs that we've got to start cutting some out, putting some back in, and it's a very interesting process to see what people react to best.
And I love that you said, that you look at these reactions and then you'll react to them yourself and tweak the set, because I think that's one of the major downfalls of a band sometimes is obviously, yeah, I know what you carefully plan this set list and you've decided this is what you're going to go through with, and you kind of almost militantly just stick to it, even if it doesn't necessarily work. I've seen
Hmm.
bands do that in the past. Obviously, you just go for it, and you just think that song really doesn't work as an opener or as a
Yeah.
closer or there, and they just keep plugging away with it, and you just think, come on, just change it, just change it. So it's great. Obviously, it kind of feeds in as well with the philosophy of obviously listening to the advice of others, just being able to like review yourself and go, actually, no, we can do this a different way. That's better. Again, attitude is great, and passes my sort of test for the segment, as it were.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So the second question to the segment is we've added it in last year because they've become a bit of an internet meme around encores. Peekaboo for adults and all that kind of stuff. So you may not be in a position yet where you're strongly, having to think too much about encores. Although you may well have done. But in general, either as a band or as a fan, what are your thoughts on encores? Are they a good thing, bad thing?
I think that it's interesting because obviously there was a point in time where people didn't understand encores, but now the audience know what an encore is and they know
Yeah,
it's coming. So it's a little bit more, I don't want to use the word acceptable, but people almost look forward to it. It's something to be excited about rather than something that you're like, have the band left? They didn't even play my favorite song, sort of thing. Like you said, we're not really in a point at this stage to do encores, especially where I think a lot of the big artists, you walk off the stage, everything goes dark, there's a few minutes and then you come back on, sort of thing. If we tried to do that, we'd be walking into the crowd because we play a lot of intimate shows. It wouldn't make a whole lot of sense. However, yeah, I think in this day and age it's more something to be excited about, and it's a part of the show that people expect and they want. So I think it's really fun. I think it's definitely like people will be telling their friend, oh, they're gonna play my favorite song, they're gonna play my favorite song, and then everything goes dark and they're like, they're gonna come back with my favorite song, I promise you. So I think they're a good thing. I think now they're a good thing. Maybe back in the day it might have been a bit confusing, but now I think it's fun.
yeah, it's a good take on it. It really is to say, yeah, it's something to look forward to because it is part of the show. Because we obviously different guests give me different answers, some for, some against, and I sometimes flip flop on it a little bit. I think it's funny you say, obviously, smaller venues, you can't really go off. I actually remember a gig last year of a band that I really liked. So, being a set list geek, I obviously was aware of what the set list was. They were playing the same set list for the whole tour. They go off, and I'm like, yep, two of the better songs, like for the encore. Looking forward to this. And all of a sudden, the sound guys put the lights on, put the music on, and
Oh,
everyone starts walking out. And I'm stood there like, no, they've got a couple more songs. And you could see the band like peering around the corner going, oh, everyone's like gone. And
yeah,
it's just
that's
like,
the only thing.
oh, yeah,
When
bit
when the when
awkward.
the house music comes on, that's the thing that really tells people that the show's over.
Exactly.
I think you have to be a bit careful with that because again, especially if it's someone that doesn't go to a lot of live shows, you expect it when you're like used to live shows and you know how they work. If it's your first live show and you're like, the band's done, I'll go to the pub, like it's not gonna
Yeah.
work quite the same. But yeah, if people know what they're expecting and there's a little sign that the band are coming back on, then I think it's fun.
It is fun. That's a good word to describe it. Adds to that sort of anticipation and everything, and you know that they're going to come back on reinvigorated, and that last sort of two or three songs is going to be really special. So yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, definitely. Love the answers, and you passed the sort of test for set list science, absolutely. And
Yay.
yeah, well, listeners need to obviously, as I say, come along to shows and see you put that into practice. Obviously, they need to check out Carousel. And yeah, the Puppeteer video as well. There'll be links in the bio for all of that. So much great um, pieces of work out there and things to look forward to from
Thank
Animalia. So
you.
yeah, listeners need to follow the band, check it all out. Absolutely. Thank you so much, Kira, for joining me on the podcast. I always just throw the last sort of message over to the guests. So what would be your last message for the listeners today?
I just say we're really excited to get our music out there. If you haven't heard us before, then if you're into, old school Paramore, Yonica, things like that, please do give us a listen. If you can come to one of our shows, then please do. We love to chat with anyone who comes. So don't be afraid to come up and say hi, basically.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you so much, Kira, for coming on the podcast.
No, thank you.
Well, thank you everyone for listening. I really do hope you enjoyed that chat there with Animalia. Remember, you can check out their single Puppeteer over on our Discover New Music playlist on Spotify. You should also check out their new EP Carousel and, of course, follow the band across social media to stay up to date with everything coming from them. You can also stay up to date with Full Pelt on social media. We're on Facebook at Full Pelt and on Twitter and Instagram at Full Pelt Music. And finally, if you would, please do hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, wherever you're watching or listening, because we'll be back very soon with another episode of the Discover New Music podcast.